Hi, LaGrange Park friends. I'm Miss Cat, and I am here to teach you how to get started with a little cross-stitch kit that you picked up from the reference desk. Or if you are looking to get started with cross-stitch and want a beginner tutorial, this is that too. And here's my face. Hi. Good to see y'all. I work in the children's department, but for this project, I'm going to be teaching adults, right? So this is the pattern of the cross stitch that you'll pick up from the reference desk, right? So it's a little tree with a little cardinal. Now there's some other items that you'll get in that package that will help you get started. Here is the canvas, right? And a little cross stitch needle, yeah, a little embroidery tapestry needle. These ones are important because they aren't sharp to the touch, so you don't prick yourself every 10 minutes like I do when I use sharp pointy ones. So yeah, so those are the ones you kind of want to use. And then you will have a few different colors of thread. So you'll get some green, a little bit of orange, a little bit of red, a little bit of black, and some brown. Now, of course, the brown you'll use for the branches, the green you'll use for the tree, the red you'll use for the cardinal, the orange you'll use for the beak, and the black you'll use for the other feathers of the cardinal. To start, we actually want to find the center of your cross stitch. So the center of your cross stitch is going to be of this size, of the 3-inch, is going to be halfway down, and it is 50 across and up and down at its widest points. So you'll count down 25 and start at the center like that. And I like to put a little marker, a little dot if you want. You can also use a fabric marker. You can put just a little pin there just to keep the place sometimes. But yeah, so we will get started with that. And so, because yeah, the easiest way, surprisingly, to start a cross stitch is to go from the center and work either up or down, which is what I like to do. So, so we found the center on the canvas, so we found the center of our pattern. And so I've already done the math for this one because it is 19 little squares across and 37 up and down. So I've got the midway point right here, and I've marked it out with the little arrows so that I can see it a little bit better. And so you can see that is just about this way, this part right here of the branches. So you can either get started with doing the branches or with the tree. I like starting with the branches first because it gives a little bit of structure of of where your stitches are going to be going. Yeah. So so you take the brown thread that you've got in your package, right? And we will tie a knot in the very end of one of the sides. Now I hope that you know how to tie a knot at this point, but if you don't, there's no shame in that. We all are learning new things every day, right? So first off, the regular embroidery floss that we get is actually 6 strands, right? So it's actually six strands of thread that make that up, right? But when we do cross stitch, we don't want to use this really thick thread, so we actually piece out 2 by 2 threads at a time, so that it's a little bit easier to manipulate, right? So I've done the hard part of that for you so that it's a little bit less challenging to get started, but just so you know, that's what it's like going forward. But anyway, so we start with a knot, and so you take the very end of the thread and you fold it. So you've got a little loop, and then you tuck the tail through the loop, and then you push it to the other side, and you pull both ends. And this, you don't have to worry about the little tail too much, because you can always trim that later. But we do want to try and get, here's one knot, that's not going to be quite strong enough to hold all the stitches, because I tend to pull pretty hard when I'm cross stitching. So what you want to try to do is make a double knot, and so you find where that last knot was and try to tie a knot right on it again. So you can see that that's a little bit bigger of a knot, and that's going to hold a little bit better. All right. And now that we have our knot tied, we can grab our needle threader. Now, I don't know if I forgot to mention that in the opening, but this is what you'll also get. So if you see, yeah, so it's a little tiny flimsy wire thing. It's amazing. All you do in order to thread the needle, because again, there's a lot of ways that you can do cross stitch or that you can do sewing and fiber arts, but an easiest way is to have these little tools that help you along the way. So you take the needle that you're going to be using, and the first step is that you push this needle threader through the needle, because then you've got this much bigger eye to so this is a lot easier to thread than that little tiny opening on the needle. So you put your end that doesn't have a knot on it through this larger eye of the needle threader, you see? You can see that? And then you pull that through a little bit. And then you want to hold on to this, to the plastic part of the needle threader, and hold on to the needle. Those are the two things you want to hold on to. And then you pull these in separate directions when you're ready to thread it, okay? So you pull just like that, and keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling. And, oh, this one got a little bit caught. Yeah, and so you can see too, there we go. So you can see there are always trial and error in whatever we do. And so this, you can see the thread got caught a little bit in this needle threader. And so we want to find the end of that thread again and try to pull it down and pull it out so that we've got it free. All right. And then when you start to go sewing, you'll have, so yeah, you've got your knot on the one end and your thread, and then this part that we've pulled through the other side, we call this the tail. And now you're gonna want to keep the tail as, well, not as short, but at a comfortable length, because you always want to be using maybe about 2.5 feet of thread as you sew, or even a little bit less. But it's easier to sew if you cut a longer piece of thread, because then you have to stop less. So it takes a little bit of practice to try to figure out how long of a thread you want to do, but I usually do about between 2.5 feet and 3 feet each time that I cut thread. But again, to what your preference is, I've got pretty long arms, so that's where I like to be. But 2.5 feet is usually about right. But yeah, and so let's see. So we found our center. We found our center stitch, and so we're going to start with this brown, and we're going to do these 3 lines of brown, right? So we found our center stitch, and now the way that you that we actually do cross stitch is the reason it, obviously we know it's cross because it makes a little X, but you want to go for when you make stitches, you want to start by going up on a diagonal. So you go up, right? So we have our first stitch, and then we'll go up to that diagonal and pull, right? And then we do 1, 2, and then we keep doing the diagonals. So we don't start making X's on each spot. We do one direction one way, and then the other direction the other. Yeah, and so we go 1, 2, and 3. So we've got our, oops, and then see what can happen. So there's a lot of obstacles that'll happen when you're trying to sew. So I pulled here now, and look, I've gotten caught on the thread around here. So when that happens, we want to, you know, just free that from where it got tangled and pull through to the other side. Excellent. All right, and now we're ready to start doing the crosses back the way we came. So we start in this very last stitch right here, and then we pull around, and then we go right back into that top corner, and then we've got our first little X. Do you see how easy that is to come together? Yeah. All right. It takes a lot of practice though, so if your stitches don't look perfect, if you need to modify something, do not be discouraged. You know, this is for fun. And then, and so then we just keep going, and now we have our first little row of stitches. Yeah, so you've got your first 3, and then the best part of this is now when you look at the canvas versus the pattern, sorry, the canvas versus the pattern, now you're not working from scratch. You're not trying to like pinpoint like, oh, where was the center again? Because now you have it. You have your 3 little dots to go off of. And then that is my main suggestion, is that you start with your center point on your cross stitch, because then everything working out from there is a little bit easier, because you have that point on the canvas that you're working on that you can count from. Because I'm not very good at math. I actually, like, when I count down, like, I count each individual little square, because that's what I do. That's what helps me. But yeah, and so after this, then you can either continue up or down. I usually like to go do the stitches down, because it's a little bit easier. And it also, when you're working on a needle point like this, on cross stitch like this, sometimes you will have to do a stitch that that you'll try to put, like, oh, if I wanted to put like another line over here and try to go through that same hole that I just went through, well, that pulls out the previous stitch. So, and you've got a little mess here. So, so that's something to be aware of, that can happen. Some other troubleshooting things. What is even happening now? Oh, because that's the tail. See, and then you see this has come up from the bottom here, and what is that? That's that tail from when we first started. So what we want to do to get that out of the sight of everything else is either pull on it with your fingers from the back, or what I like to do is take the needle and find this, like, the center, and then pull. Oh, that was the actual thread. Ha ha ha. But find the, so we'll pull that back down. Where is that guy? Here we go. There we go. And then you can pull that all the way back. And then at that point, I would take some scissors, and you can pull and make sure that you have, that you're only cutting thread that you don't want to see anymore. And then you cut that as close as you can, whoop, as close as you can to there, just like that. And then you'll have a little bit less issue and you still have all of your thread. Great. Now, when you're working on this design of the tree, you're going to be doing a lot of, there's going to be a lot less of these, you know, back and forth across lines, which are, you know, the easiest way to do cross stitch. This is actually features a pretty long up and down one. So, so what we do with that, if we want to, actually, if we want to keep things easy, let's keep things easy, right? So as you work down on this brown pattern, on these brown branches, just make a little X each way that you go, because then that's one less stitch that you have to worry about fixing up later. So we do one, and then we go up into the corner, and then we go down to the right corner and back up to the left corner. And we continue doing that until we get to that next 3. And then here, and then I can show you how we can do these diagonal branches. All right, so now we've got all 4 of our line going down, right? So we've got the 3 and then 4. And then we're gonna make another one of those three across ones where we go down and over. And over, back in, and across, back, all right, so we've got all of our stitches done so far. And then now we're going to work on these diagonal branches. So we start here, right? And so we want to go up on a diagonal. And so as we're doing our diagonal stitches, we go up and keep that same angle. So we still go across. And then, and so you find that next one up and across, and then you just keep following this diagonal line. Can you see this diagonal line? As you go up and place more stitches for more branches, just like that. So let's see, we've got 4 branches, we've got 2, 3, 4 stitches, and then we go back down. Oh, and look at this. So this is going to happen when you're stitching. Do you see there's a little knot in the thread? So pulling on it can make it more tight. What I suggest is you take this needle and we're going to work out that knot again. And so you find that direct center of the knot and you pull up, and that displaces the knot again. Yeah. All right, so we've got our branches. And so then we're gonna go again from that bottom to the top, because if we try to do this, where we try to do like, oh, we'll just go like that, and then, oh, I'll try to do, you know, top to bottom with this next one right down here. Well, yeah, that worked for some reason here, but generally it can get a little caught on things. So we try to go from bottom corner to top corner, and bottom corner to top corner here. Excellent. And so you repeat that on the other side, and then I will show you how to change to a new color. But first, I have made a mistake. I was looking at this and counted 1, 2, 3, 4, but it is actually just the 3. So now I have to go and unstitch some of these that I put in already. So what you want to do, how to unstitch, is you pull the thread out, and then you go to the stitches that you want to take out, and you pull, you pull on that little loop, and you pull up and out. And then you repeat that for all of the stitches that you want to take out. Make sure you get both of those threads before you pull, because otherwise it'll be a big mess. And sometimes I'll have to start over with new thread, but you know, we try to work through our mistakes because they happen. And so then we have to pull out these ones. Oh shoot, see, and look at that. When you have 2, there we go. But you can always find the partner. There we go. We pull that out. Whee! We pull out this one, and we pull out this one. And then we take away this stitch that we didn't need. Unstitch that. And finally, we're back to where the pattern wants us to be, right? And so then now we can repeat those stitches that we'll know how to do very well now that we had to re-stitch them. And then I'll be back with you for how to end your stitching. Okay, not that you will want to stop here, but I will show you how to end your thread once you get to the point where you need to change colors or and stuff like that. So so you look at the back, right? We're looking at the back of our canvas, and you look for two of these stitches that are next to each other, and you can pull through and kind of scoop those up, and you pull through and make a stitch like that. And so then that stops the thread, and then we do one more through those same 2 loops. Let me see if I can get them. There we go. One more through those same 2 loops, and then you pull like that, and you've got your knot. Another way you can do it, if that's a little bit too much, is that you can hold the thread and make a knot. So, let's do this. Scooch it over a little bit. So you pull straight up, we do that loop around, and then you try and get that knot as close to the canvas as you possibly can. I even like to, as you can see, I'm holding it, holding it real tight, and I like to put my thumb there to try and make sure that it stays right there. Yeah. And then after that, then we also want to trim those ends, because remember that last time that the end came up, we don't want that. And there we go. So you've got your first color, and then you can just repeat those steps with your next color. And so we've got green, and we tie a knot, and we start that color. Ooh, and for green, let me show you. So I took a costuming class in my undergrad, so I actually know how to thread a needle without using the little needle helper. So the way I thread a needle is I take the thread, try to make, you know, a little tail here. I wrap the tail tightly, kind of fluff it up a little bit, and then pull it, and then pinch that thread right with the needle, and you pull the needle out, and then you bring the eye of the needle right back to the thread here, and you push the thread right through that eye of the needle real tight. But it can be kind of tricky, which is why I recommend the needle threader. as a very handy tool to have. Like, this is giving me a little trouble, but yeah, it does not want me to thread it. So there's a lot of techniques that you can use, and there's a lot of workarounds, because the traditional techniques can be very difficult in my experience. And like I said, we want this to be a fun, relaxing activity. And so here we go. I've got my very long thread. And then, so if we're gonna start doing, let's see, so we're at this point in our canvas. So let's just try to keep going with that. So we can see that we need to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches on either side of this this bottom part here of the branch. So what I like to do, because as I've said before, I'm not very good at counting, I like to do the stitches a little bit backwards to try to get to where they need to be. So I count it out and I do those diagonals this way and work a little bit backwards. Oops. Oh yeah, there we go. And then, so we count out 1, 2, 3, whoops, and see, and I got another knot in my thread. And so this one, I might be able to just pull real tight, and sometimes it just disappears just like that. Cool. So that was a nice one that didn't give us too much trouble. Here we go. 2, 3, and 4, and oop. Yeah, gotta make sure we clear all of the obstacles. And 5. There we go. So now we have this counted out. So now we've got 5. And then we do the same thing where we do the stitches all the way back, and then we can keep going with that same stitch the normal way on the other side of this 3 stitch branch there. Well, I think that is a pretty good place to stop for now. I think you've got a pretty good handle of how to get started anyway with stitching. I am gonna try to do more cross stitch stuff for the library, so keep your eyes open for that. But yeah, I hope that you found this tutorial helpful. Please feel free to email me at kat@lplibrary.org. If you are stuck and have questions, you can bring your canvas to the children's desk when I'm working and be like, what is this? What is happening? Please help me. And I will be right there for you. Yeah, I taught myself how to cross stitch after doing 20 years of needlepoint. So I know a lot of the techniques, and I know a lot of ways to work around them. So yeah, don't be scared and have fun. Those are my 2 rules. All right. Well, until next time, friends, thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope to see you soon.